Yeah, I've got 135.
This is Brian LaPointe, researcher at Florida Atlantic University.
Needs more slack? Yeah. Cut me a little slack.
The samples he is taking will show that nitrogen and phosphorus levels are similar to that of sewage, some of the highest nutrient content he's ever measured in Florida.
Got it, Brian? Okay.
He's been studying algae for more than 40 years. Specifically, right now, he's sampling Microcystis bloom, what we call blue-green algae. Microcystis is a toxin that comes from cyanobacteria. This is a blue freshwater bacteria that can photosynthesize like algae. It can't survive in just salt water, but it thrives in brackish waters and estuaries where there is a combination of fresh and salt water.
Those additional flows from Lake Okeechobee contribute to the reduction of the salinity that we're seeing here in the estuary now, where essentially the estuary becomes like a freshwater lake. It's like a freshwater bubble that forms.
There are other factors that also contribute to blue-green algae growth: increases in water temperature, variation in water flow, vertical mixing, light exposure, pH changes, trace metals, and loads of nutrients. Fertilizers and septic tanks that hold our sewage add a lot of nutrients to the waters, fueling the bloom.
It's like fuel to the fire. And these algae, when they have high concentrations of nitrogen, they can double their biomass in a day or less. So these blooms just start to grow and grow and grow. And that is a major source of nutrients that fuels the bloom locally here in the Fort Myers and Cape Coral area.
Septic systems and fertilizers are the biggest contributors to nitrogen and phosphorus levels in Florida waters.
The reason it's blooming here and doing so well is because all the conditions it needs to, for its population to really explode are here and occurring now.
We love those toxins. Okay, so we're going to load up. We're going to put these samples on ice. We're taking these back tomorrow to analyze their nitrogen and carbon isotopes to identify the source of nitrogen that's feeding the bloom.
These were the tests we saw at the beginning. Remember, nutrient levels higher than sewage. It's made worse when the salt levels are so low.
Both the outfalls that are in the estuary and from the tens of thousands of septic tanks that are running into the estuary.
You know, those blooms can go from days to weeks to, in some cases, months or more. In this case, as long as the salinity is low, close to zero, these particular cyanoalgae or blue-green algae are going to be able to grow.
Phosphorus and nitrogen and other nutrients like iron fuel blue-green algae growth, but it's hard to determine which nutrient triggers the problem. So where do these nutrients come from? Scientists say us. The more nutrients, the more algae.
A lot of people use fertilizers on their lawns in these urban settings and suburban settings, and 40% of Floridians rely on septic tanks for their wastewater disposal. So you can see, directly or indirectly, all of us are part of the problem.